Okay, the recording begins. This is the first lecture of Biology 105, and it is January 21st. All right, great. Welcome, everybody. As I've mentioned, my name is Jonathan Montgomery. We're going to do our introductory lecture now. We will talk about the syllabus. We will talk about the Canvas page and how to navigate it. We'll talk about the lab structures and all of that. I see a couple familiar faces in here. It's really nice. All right? But for those of you who haven't met me before, I'll introduce myself and my academic experience and what qualifies me to be on this side of the room while you have to face in this direction. Okay? Good stuff. Let's just jump into it. Because I don't know about you, but I'm just darn excited. And the beginning of any semester has this weird, nervous energy to it. And I really want to just push that out of my body right now. So let's do it. Here we go. Biology 105. It's the best course, okay? I love this class. I have been teaching this class every semester and summers for 6 years now, since I started teaching at Cal Poly Humboldt when it was HSU, and I keep asking to teach it again because it's just so darn great. Here we go. If you go to the Canvas page, which you should regularly do, the Canvas page will have all of your upcoming assignments. Everything should be integrated correctly into the calendar for the entire semester. But sometimes I make a mistake and a date seems off. If a date seems off to you, shoot me a message. You're helping yourself and you're helping everybody else who's seeing the incorrect date, okay? But the entire semester's material is posted and available for you if you want to get ahead of the curve. Changes might happen, but I will always let you know if there's any adjustments to the course schedule because an exam needs to be pushed or something like that. That's rare at this point. The course moves pretty smoothly. Okay, you should all have gotten this first announcement. Good, we're recording, okay. You all should have gotten this first, or you all should have received this first announcement right here in your email. Can I get some nods from the class? Awesome, very good, very good. You can always check if you're nervous that you might have missed an announcement. That's how I'll communicate changes to you, or if a class section is canceled or something like that, or a certain lecture. We wouldn't cancel a whole section. Okay, on the main Canvas page, you've got access to these 3 buttons and all the things on the little control panel or on the little navigation pane on the left. We've got the syllabus, we've got the modules, we've got the course schedule. Let's start with the syllabus. Okay, so in the syllabus page, you'll see information about myself, my contact information. It's at the bottom here, instructor information. You'll also see information about your lab instructors. There are 3 lab sections associated with this course. We've got Natalie, Sierra, and myself teaching those lab sections. Here are the times for those sections, the CRNs, and the locations. Every lab section is in Science B132, all right? Sometimes you may need to miss a lab. That happens. The labs are super important for this course. Attendance will be taken at the beginning of each lab, but you will not be failed for a lack of attendance, if that makes sense. It will be considered in future accommodations. Say you're on the verge of passing, but then we look at your attendance and you made 2 out of the 15 labs. I'll be less understanding than if you make all of the labs, all right? Little bit of subjectivity there, so make your labs. But if you can't make a lab, what you can do is try to drop in on another lab section. If you need to organize that, you can reach out to the lab instructor and me. Hit us both up with an email. That happens sometimes. There's also another lecture section of this course taught by Chris Slay, and he is teaching the same lab schedule as me. So there is a possibility that we could pop you over to one of those other lab sections. Reach out if you have a heads up that you're going to miss a lab. Fair enough? Any questions about that aspect? Awesome. Yes, please.
Do you know about how full each of the lab sections are
Currently, they are all at 24 students, and we have 24 seats.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So our first labs will always be the highest attendance. We usually drop somebody by the second week. And if need be, we can always slide a chair on the end of a lab bench. But it's, not ideal. Because then we got 6 people working a lab designed for 5 people. Yeah. But we can always make it work. It's all about communication in this course. That's really the key that I'm going to try to emphasize over and over. There are going to be unique situations. You're all having a unique experience in Biology 105 in some aspects, and if you communicate with me and tell me what you need, I'll do everything within reason to try to help you out. Maybe this is the semester where every single student passes. That'd be great. That'd make me happy. All right. Course information, location. I got the location right, time, lab times. We've got me. Here's my email address right there. Email's a great way to get a hold of me. You can also send me Canvas messages, and I'll receive those as well. The Canvas messages, you're more sure to be seen because I get an email, a second email alert, and then the Canvas message on top of it. So Canvas messages, they really blast me with those, okay? But here's my email. I check my email daily. I make a commitment to return emails within 48 hours of receipt on work days, okay? So that doesn't include weekends, but I will usually try to get them back to you within 24 hours. I'm intending to do 24 turnaround. 48 is my commitment, where if I take longer than 48, it's okay to get a little frustrated and upset, Okie doke. Hey, my instructor, bio. We'll talk a little bit more about this because it's my favorite subject. But I came to HSU as an undergrad. I sat in this classroom where I took the art of film. I was a student here from 2008 to 2013. I received my undergraduate in botany here. Are there any other botany majors in the room? Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. Sick, a few. It's a great degree, it's so fun. Then I went to graduate school. I went to UC Riverside. I got my PhD there, and it was in plant physiology, plant ecophysiology, turfgrass science, and turfgrass science. They give you a major area and 2 minor areas of focus. I'll give you all the inside scoop about how grad school works if you ever want to come and talk to me about that. Because there's tips and tricks, The secret is you get to kind of massage the title or the degree that you have. You can say, well, I did a lot of plant physiology work. They'll say, really, you're a turfgrass scientist, John? And I'll say, yes, but could we put plant physiology on my degree? And now I have a more marketable PhD. I'll give you the tips like that. I got info, all right? I've taught a lot of courses here, okay? I've taught Biology 105. I've taught Biology 330, which is the Principles of Ecology. Botany 330 is Plant Ecology. I'm in the ESM department. I teach ESM 105, Natural Resource Conservation. ESM 303, Natural History and Ecology. Fall, I'm teaching ESM 230, the title of which escapes me at the moment. I've taught plant physiology. I've taught Botany 105 labs. I've taught plant taxonomy labs. I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place, all right? Don't establish a negative relationship with me right now because you're gonna probably take another course from me, all right? But I don't hold grudges, okay? I forgive, but I never forget. All right, very good stuff. I actually forget everything, including your names. I apologize at the beginning of the semester. I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention office hours. Office hours are important, okay? I hold 3 office hour blocks this semester. Tuesdays and Fridays from 10 to 10:50, and Wednesdays from 1 to 2. I will have office hours today. I am in Brooken's house, which is the little house that's across the street there. Really convenient location, all right? I'm on the 2nd floor. It's great. I've got windows for the first time. I just moved in there. 6 years, I got my Windows. That's all I wanted. Okay. SI information right here. We're moving through the material at a pretty rapid clip. Just going to take a second and see any questions about anything I've discussed so far. Okay, and remember, all this is available for you in the course syllabus. The textbook, okay? I strongly encourage you to get the textbook. I think I'm getting older and older every day, every second. I'm aging in this room right before your eyes, okay? But I still find that many students do better with a physical textbook because it's easier to flip, reference, use the index, the Control F, the PDF. It's got so many distractions. A textbook is nice. However, the Campbell Biology 11th edition is essentially the same as their modern 15th or whatever they're up to, all right? And the 11th edition is pretty inexpensive. You can get it on thrift books, $20 if you can get it together. There's also editions of this in the library. That's what it's called, the textbook building. All right, that's great. Campbell Biology is a great textbook. I've got a bunch of copies of it. I keep one at home because sometimes I have a question about why does this thing that I noticed happen. Campbell usually has the answer if it has anything to do with biology, and it's a trustworthy source. Like a lot of biology courses use it, okay? So, I suggest getting the Campbell Biology, 11th edition or newer. Now, if you don't get it, I have made recordings of all of your assigned readings. So all of the chapters that I assigned to you, I read them out loud. And you can link through here. And you should be able to hear this. So it's rough. But I used a decent microphone. It's terrible hearing my own voice, but you've got essentially an audio book available of the textbook, okay? So if you really want to go overboard, you get the 11th edition and you listen to me reading it and then read along. Doesn't that sound like a good time? Okay. Points. There's one thing that I know everybody, I got a question, yeah.
Is the textbook required for lab sessions? So just like a reading?
Great question. The lecture and the lab cover the same material, but from different perspectives or different approaches. And you could pass the lab and do well in the lab using only the protocols. All the information necessary for the labs is presented in the protocol. Yep, no textbook stuff there for that. Great, great, great. I'll sometimes reference labs during the week and say, here's what you can expect this week in lab. I'll usually do it on Wednesday because Wednesday is when you have labs, either Wednesdays or Fridays with me. Okay, points. We all love points, okay? Where do you get points here? We've got reading quizzes. Most weeks we'll have a reading quiz. The reading quiz is on Canvas. You get 2 attempts at it, and it sits there, and it's meant to be there to encourage you to check out the textbook. The textbook has all of the answers for these reading quizzes, and we live in the modern era, and you could find a lot of the information online as well, but the questions, they can be a little tricky. Anyways, the reading quizzes are meant to keep you on track with the assigned readings. There's 12 of them throughout the semester. Most weeks have one. There is a reading quiz for chapter 1. We'll look at that very briefly so you can see what the structure of one looks like. Okay. Lab midterm. We have a lab midterm. The lab midterm is an online assignment worth 50 points. It's essentially I used to have an in-person lab midterm, but it made us eliminate one of the lab activities and we really wanted to have that lab activity back. So I moved the lab midterm to online. It's like 25 questions worth 2 points each that covers all of the labs that we've done up until that point, just to try to keep you reflecting on those labs, because there is a lab final, which is in person, which I'll also talk to you about, okay? Lab assignments. A lot of your points come from these lab assignments. The lab assignments are also on Canvas, and they take two main forms. Some lab assignments are multiple choice, drop down, fill in the blank, Canvas style quizzes to make sure you got the core concepts out of the protocol. Some of the lab assignments involve you uploading a figure that you generate in Excel. If you're not comfortable with Excel, don't worry, I have pre-recorded video tutorials of how to generate those figures. So you follow along with a 20-minute video, you generate the figure. There's no reason to not get 100% on all those figure uploads, because I show you step by step how to generate and upload the figure. Cool? Online lab assignments, great stuff. All the information for these lab assignments is in the weekly protocol. All the info you need to answer all of these questions. They're meant to check your understanding. If you fail one of these lab assignments, come talk to me, and I'll help you cover that material. We'll go over the topics that you didn't understand, and then I'll usually open another attempt for you. Okay? It's all about that communication. Lecture exams, okay? We have 3 in-person lecture exams, okay? And we'll look at the course schedule so you see where all of this falls throughout the semester too. They are all worth 75 points. They are all multiple choice, and they use, and I use Scantron forms, all right? I love my Scantron forms. I don't have an Expo marker, but I've got it in the syllabus somewhere. It's a Scantron 882E form, and you can get those at the Rose House for free, as well as at additional locations on campus. Does anybody know one of the other locations? The bookstore sells them, right? Yeah. Yeah? Cultural Center usually has some. Thank you. I was like, I know there's other places that have free Scantrons available for you. So you can get them at the bookstore. You can buy a multi-pack online and then split them up with people. Yeah, please.
I was just going to ask, do you know what color Scantron that is?
They're green.
Okay.
It is the green hot dog, not the hamburger. Yeah. Solid. Get the thin Scantron 88. In fact, let's just real quick, one moment. It'll only take a second. I got my caps lock on. Awesome. That's what they look like right there. There's one in person. Yeah, they look like this. Cool. So there are 4 exams that are going to use these over the course of the semester, the 3 midterms, and then the final exam. So if you can get 4, that's cool, or get them as you need them. Yeah. This class sometimes has as many as, last semester was 112 students, and I have tried doing a conventional exam, and it lowered my quality of life to the point where I won't do it anymore. And now we do multiple choice exams. That's great. I'm sorry for those of you who struggle with multiple choice exams. Please come talk to me, make office hours. I will work through study guides with you. I will help you out and get you as prepped as possible. Since I mentioned study guides, there are study guides available for every exam, where I lay out every single topic covered on that exam. They are exhaustive. There are no tricks in my study guides. I'll show you what they look like. It's a list of bullet points. I write basically 1 for each question. I'll be like, one of them would be the primary limit on size of a single cell. That would be like a bullet point. And what you're supposed to do is look through our slides, look through the textbook, and find, oh, well, it's usually a surface area to volume ratio question. And then you've got the information you need, okay? Grading. Standard issue. I got pluses, I got minuses. They're all here, all right? You gotta get a 70% to pass the course. Okay? Cool. Question?
I'm confused by the points because on the
You know what? I wish this wasn't being recorded, because what I'm going to do is just change that. I'll do this real quick. 875. And now I can say, I don't know what you're talking about. You must have misread. All right? It always said 875. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Great. Extra credit options. Ah, man. Got to talk about this. I'll bring this up again after our first exam, but if you get under a 70% on an exam, all right, there's an extra credit report you can write me on all the questions you missed, essentially, and I will raise your grade up to a maximum of 70%. So I give you back half of the points that you missed. So, you can fail, you can get 0% on an exam, and you would still be able to complete that report and get a 50% on the exam. You can fail the exams and still pass the course, okay? But there's one time per semester that you can write me this extra credit report to get points back. That's my primary form of extra credit. And then additionally, you communicate with me if you're on the border of passing. Let's say you missed a couple of labs, but your attendance has been great, or you did poorly on a couple of assignments, or you missed a couple of assignments. I'm a relatively flexible person. You can tell me that, and I'll be like, okay, cool. Let's open up this one and this one for you. You do them within a week, and we'll try to get you there. We'll try to get you to pass. Okie doke. Incomplete, student learning outcomes. This is all boilerplate stuff that needs to be in every syllabus about what the department has determined your learning outcomes should be for this course. They use that in directing me to teach. Course learning outcomes, course schedule, course requirements, blah, 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 blah. It's all right here. Technical assistance links. Okay, cool. Boilerplate stuff that you're welcome to go check out and read. It's got links to additional resources there for you as well. Okay, we're doing great on time. Let's look at the schedule. I love this document. Question?
Sorry.
No problem.
Just a textbook question. So on the bookstore, the textbook requirements, there's one book that's called Shape of Life.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So the stuff of life. This course has a pretty heavy emphasis on genetics, all right? There are about 2, maybe 3 weeks where we're talking about genetics, really. And the stuff of life right here, here's the book, A Graphic Guide to Genetics and DNA. I put it on the list as a required or recommended. I forget what I put it on.
You put it as required because I was confused when I didn't see it in the syllabus.
Awesome. Yeah, I put it up there as required. In summer school, when I teach this summer class, this is the textbook that we use for 2 weeks of the 5-week session. It's a graphic novel. It is a very quick read, and it goes over everything that you need to know about genetics in a really digestible way. I love this book. It helped me immensely when I was taking genetics as a student, the 300 level genetics. It got me all caught up with all the stuff that I'd forgotten over the summer. So, as with any textbook, there's no, it's not an enforcement. I'm not gonna come into your dorm and say, where's the textbook? You should have got that textbook. But I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to get this. And at the end of the semester, if you purchased it and you are done with it, I will give you $5 for your copy. So I'll reduce the cost effectively by $5. Cash. All right? I'm trying to build up enough of a collection that I can give all of the students a copy of it to reference over the course of the semester. Thank you for bringing that up. Any questions about the stuff of life at all? Cool. Usually I could find an excerpt from it, but whatever. Just trust me, it's fun. If you want to check one out from me, I've got 5 or 6 or 7 copies. Come take a look. See if you think it looks interesting. We won't be covering that material for months, so Okay. That brings us to the course schedule document. This is a thing that it's Canvas. It's great how it incorporates all of the due dates, and it'll give you a calendar where things are due at this time. But that can kind of mess people up because you'll see like, I don't have anything due this week, when in reality, 3 of your classes all have 2 assignments that they put as due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And then on Sunday, you're like, oh, it looks like I have some work to do. And you realize that you have a dozen assignments. I don't know if any of you have ever gotten into that situation, but it's possible. What will prevent that is regularly checking the course schedule. Because what I've done with the course schedule document is I have each week, okay, I've got the topics that we're covering, I've got the assigned reading from the textbook, I've got the lecture assignment, the points associated with the lecture assignment, the lab topic, and then the lab assignment right here with the points associated with that lab assignment. All right? So you can easily reference this and see, okay, it looks like this week we have a quiz for chapter 1 due, and it's worth 10 points, and there's no lab assignment. All right? And it looks like next week I'm supposed to read 2 additional chapters of the textbook. There will be a reading quiz, okay? And then in lab, we've got this activity, and there will be a chemistry review worksheet assignment. Remember, all of these assignments are turned in on Canvas. And I also put in the add drop deadlines for people. Here's the first exam in week 5. It's in the future. Question, please.
Question about the reading quizzes or like the textbook. I was going to ask, is information from the textbook going to be present on the exams?
Great question. Everything on the exams comes from the lecture,
Okay.
but I built the lectures
Around
the textbook. You got it. The textbook will always give you more in-depth information. Now that's the design. You know, in lecture we go over this stuff. The textbook has more depth because it's a big old textbook, you know? Yeah. No problem. But I have worked hard to try to never ask you a question on the exam that you couldn't answer if you had a perfect memory of every lecture. Cool. Whereas the reading quizzes can ask you questions that were not covered in lecture because they're intended to check that you're reading. Everybody that makes sense? Awesome. Okay. This is great. Yeah, there's the schedule. First exam is in week 5. It'll be on a Monday. We do it here. Or if you have accommodations, this is the testing center. You organize that, right? Scantron form, boom. I try not to have lab assignments on exam weeks, but I'm not always able to do that. Okay, are there any questions about the schedule document here? Okay, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And then in week 15, we've got our in-person lab final. It's 100 points. Plenty of people get 100% on it. It covers every lab from the entire semester. You have 3 hours to do it, but most people complete it within an hour, all right? It's all on paper. It's not a lab practical. And I have a lab practice final that I post online on Canvas the prior week, which is essentially, well, it's a practice final, and it covers all of the topics that will be covered on your lab final. So if you haven't picked up on the theme, I'm really trying to give you all of the resources you could need in order to be prepared to complete these assignments. Question, please. Thank you so much. Oh, man, forgetting so many things. The lab final, all right? In fact, let's have a whole little discussion about the lab section as soon as we make sure everybody's comfortable with this document. Sound good? Awesome. Everybody cool with the course schedule document? Great. I got a good idea. Let's talk about the lab section, the lab portion of the course. Just something I thought of. So, the lab, all right? Each week, this module section is another thing that you can just go to each week because each week I've got a module for you that has everything in it, all right? It'll have the week one overview is essentially where you'll find the lecture slides, you know, link to the quiz, that sort of stuff. But also, I will link assignments like the week one reading quiz here in the module, and then you've got a section for lab materials, okay? So, each week, all right, you're going to have a protocol. Each week when we have a lab at least. And you need to print these protocols and you need to bring them to lab. So if you have lab today at 2 or at 5, please go and find a place to print this protocol. This is the longest protocol of the entire semester. It's 18 pages. It's a little excessive, all right? But the activities are all very manageable, and you'll be able to get through them all. It's got microscopy, micropipetting training, estimating the size of an object under a microscope, and we also will talk, your TA will talk to you about this overarching project where you'll be assessing the prevalence of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. This week, don't worry too much about it. It's just, you're going to take a plate of media, put your thumb on it, someone's gonna cough on one, you're gonna have different media, you're gonna incubate it for a week, and we're gonna see how much bacteria and fungus, et cetera, grows on that plate over the week. Super chill, just to introduce you to, here's media, here's how you label a plate, here's what the incubator is, you know? Great. So the protocol's right here, lab notebook. All right? So as you just asked, is the lab final open note? Yes, the lab final is open lab notebook, okay? So what you should do, there are a bunch of 3-ring binders from previous semesters that are in the lab room, and you can have one, all right? There's a big pile of them. Your TA will point them out, or you can say like, those free, and then you know your TA will be like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention those are free. Get one, you know? So what you want to do is print the protocol for the week, 3-hole punch it. There's a 3-hole punch in the lab room, and put it into the 3-ring binder, and that's how you build your lab notebook. Okay, you've got these protocols. You should make notes on the protocol. All right, you should fill out all of the questions on the protocol. There's like, hey, write a hypothesis here. Here's the section about like estimating the size of an object is really a good example of this, okay? Like, how big on average are the euglena? Estimate the size of the chloroplasts. Don't just answer these questions. You're never gonna be graded on this, okay? But write out the math of how you calculate the size of an organism under the microscope, because that's the sort of thing that you'll have to do in the in-person lab final. The weekly lab assignments will sort of introduce you to the type of questions that you can expect to see on the lab final. The only difference is the lab final isn't multiple choice, okay? There are a few multiple choice questions, but there's no drop-down windows or anything. It'll say, look at this picture of a picture collected through a microscope at this magnification with a calculated field of view at a lower magnification of this number. How big is the euglena in the center of the image? Give an estimate. Then you just calculate it, write a number down, and then we will actually be hand grading those, and if you're within a reasonable range, giving you points. Does that sort of make sense? Awesome. Your lab notebook, it can be anything, all right? It can have anything in it as long as it's non-electronic. If you keep an electronic lab notebook, if you use an iPad for your lab notebook and edit it and all that, then you need to print that out and put that into your lab notebook for the lab final, okay? If you need assistance with that, I can try to help you out. You know, it's a lot of pages to print throughout the semester, I know. Cool. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so the lab, usually you'll just have a lab assignment and a lecture assignment, like in the next week. There's a quiz on chapters 2, 3, and 4, and there's a chemistry review worksheet associated with the lab, and that's what you turn in for that week, okay? There's an online lab midterm, there are in-person lecture midterms, there's an in-person lab final, and there's an in-person lecture final. And those are the main assessments of the course, please.
Do you do practice exams and study guides for the exam, or
Just study guides, and I'll tell you it's because I've done practice exams before, and I don't like them, all right? But if you come to my office hours, or if you go to SI meetings, they'll have, May will have, study sessions. You can totally ask me, like, what type of question would you ask about this topic? And I will come up with a question similar to something on the exam. But practice exams are tricky because they can't be too close to the actual exam, and then people end up studying for that exam, the practice exam, and they miss the full picture. That's my opinion on them, and my opinion is really important in this class because I put the class together. All right, hey, let's look at a study guide, okay? So in week 5, whenever there's an exam, there'll be a study guide posted with it. The study guides look like this. This one should have a date, oh, it doesn't. Okay, cool. I might edit this, but it would be weeks before the exam, or if I made a change to it, I would let you know. But it should be exactly the same as this because each semester I've kind of figured out what I consider essential material. So check this study guide out, right? There's 25 multiple choice questions. There's about 25 bullet points here, okay? All right. So similarities and differences between bacteria and eukaryotic organisms, what structures and molecules are common to both? It's like a little broad. It's meant to make you review that entire topic. Filling out the study guide is part of, your learning experience in the course. This is what the study guides always look like. If we have extra time before an exam, I'll say, hey, we got 10 minutes and I'll open it up to just questions about the study guide topics. Everything on the exam is on the study guides, all right? The exams are non-cumulative for the midterms, all right? They're all isolated exams. And then the final is cumulative, but the final exam study guide lists everything you need for the final, all right? So you're not expected to go back through all of these previous study guides and learn it all, even though I'm only gonna ask you 25% of those points. Okay, that's what the study guides look like. Questions about that? Okay. I suggest you do this. People sometimes ask, like, how should I use a study guide? Download the document, open it up in Word or another piece of software, okay? And then do this, all right? Make some space underneath each bullet point, and then print it out, and then fill it out by hand. There's research to show that you'll internalize it better if you've handwritten it. And then once you've filled it out, you've got a completed study guide. You could come to my office hours and say, hey, John, can we go over some of this stuff? And I'll be like, yeah, no problem. Great job on filling out the study guide. You show me you put the effort into filling it out, and I'll be super helpful in saying, yeah, this is great, but you should also know, I don't know, blank. I'm hitting the wall. 5 minutes until the end, we're doing great. Okay, we have run through everything except what the reading quizzes look like. They look like this. All right, multiple choice questions. Fill them out. You get 2 attempts. It'll tell you which questions you got wrong. You can do your second attempt. Cool? Lab assignments, what do they look like? They look like this. The chemistry review worksheet is the most difficult lab assignment of the semester because, let's be honest, most of us probably don't remember chemistry, the chemistry math, the dilution, solution making, and all that. But I'm going to really try to emphasize this stuff. So it asks you, like, how would you make a solution of 5 molar sodium chloride? Take one of these options of grams of sodium chloride and combine it with one of these options of volumes of water. It's okay if you're like, I have no idea how to do that, because you're going to do it in your lab. All right? Chemical formulas, boom, boom, boom. This is the hardest assignment for the semester. It's all about these solutions. Technically, the problem that we've had in the past is other instructors are like, well, they already know this. They know this because they took Chem 109 or Chem 107. And it's like, you know what? I want everybody who leaves Bio 105 to know how to make solutions. It really is. If you stick with Bio, it's going to be essential you know how to do these sorts of calculations. I promise. You know, I know a lot of biologists, and they all have to do that sort of stuff. Okay. Last thing. Sorry, last thing. And of course, this is important, so I'm going to try to get all of your attention again. I make big motions. Everybody, hello, hello, hello. I made eye contact with a few of you. Hello. All right. Pre-lab videos. We needed a way to standardize the information people were getting in the lab lectures because of the variety of levels of experience that our TAs have. All right? So, last semester, Mark Wilson, who taught me Bio 105 back when I was a student, he was kind enough to record these pre-lab video lectures that go over the essential information. Now, I'm going to probably start re-recording these this semester, but I didn't re-record the first one. So, you know, you've got this video here. He does a whole little pre-lab lecture. You should watch the pre-lab lecture before the lab. You're expected to do that, and you can be quizzed on this information. All right, your lab assignment can ask you questions directly drawn from here. Some tips: you can adjust the speed in this playback. You can also access the transcript of this playback. You can download the transcript. What I have done in the past is I download the transcript and then I just edit it down into bullet points to make sure that I like all the stuff in them, you know. Just there's lots of options there for you. So, before lab this week, you need to watch this pre-lab video lecture. It's like 19 minutes long. There will be one for every lab. Okay? You need to download this file. You need to print this file. And then you just show up to your lab. Okay? Now, there's technically 2 minutes left in the lecture, but I think what we're going to do is come back to all of this on Friday morning lecture. Yeah, before everybody packs up, question. Yeah. Great question. You'll get a safety lecture today in lab or on Friday in lab. No lab coat, no goggles required. We will provide the goggles for you if you need them. And the lab coat is not required, but we have options if you want one. Yeah, we got one in the room. We got some in the room. If you've got additional questions, come down and chat with me. All right, I'm very excited to get to work with you all this semester. Hey, how's it going?